Hi, hola comunidad, welcome back. My name is Deyanira and I'm a mental health therapist based in the RGV, Texas. So in today's self-care vlog, I'll be bringing you along for a few days in my life. I'll be sharing my own therapy experience, which should be interesting, hopefully. I'll also be bringing you along as I challenge myself to practice some of my favorite hobbies and start decorating for the holidays. So lately in my butterfly garden, I've been watching my monarch caterpillars eat up all the native milkweed I planted, which has been incredibly satisfying. I mean, truly nunca pensé que iba a tener mariposas in the backyard. Like, it's what I wanted, but to actually see it happening is super magical because currently they're prepping to form their chrysalis to become butterflies, and I can't wait to share that video footage with you in the future, but that's where they are right now in their current process. So let's really talk about self-care a little bit more. Something that brings me joy personally is planning things during the holidays to look forward to. I like writing them down and specifically putting them in my physical calendar. It's so much fun for me, but then again, I am a Virgo, so it's something that I really enjoy. Some of the things that I like planning for are local events or going to restaurants. Self-care really involves nourishment, attunement, and intentionality. En muchas ocasiones se trata de conocernos, escuchar lo que necesita nuestro cuerpo, and then respond. So personally, as a PCOS girly, my body needs a lot of protein, so really high protein snacks and meals. So I was trying to focus on finding my go-to ingredients and meals that I could easily prep, because that way tracking becomes a lot easier for me on my Fitbit app, and it ends up becoming like a food journal for me that keeps me accountable and that helps me check in. That way it doesn't really become something that's out of sight, out of mind, which can be really easy, you know, when we're just going through the motions of life and we're like just on autopilot, and before we know it, suddenly we start to feel malnourished, whether that be like mentally or also just physically. And I've consistently learned over the years that if I nourish myself and I take care of myself mental health wise, physically, in all the ways, I'm not only healthier for myself, but it also allows me to show up better for my community and for my loved ones, because if we're not okay, we just cannot keep pouring out into others. And it also helps to have people in our lives that pour back into us, because that's how it's meant to be. It's meant to be mutual. Sometimes my friends encourage me to get back on things and to stay accountable, and sometimes I encourage my friends to do the same. Y si estamos siendo honestos, let's be real, sometimes it can feel like if we pause to try to take care of ourselves, it feels like everything's just gonna combust, like things are just gonna go crazy and out of control. But we have to remind ourselves that that is what our mind wants us to think, because even if something's unhealthy for us, it's familiar, right? And so our mind is doing its job of just keeping us on track with what's familiar. So sometimes we have to disrupt that a little bit and rest so we can actually slow down and attune to our bodies and see, what is my body actually needing right now? What is my mind needing to feel healthy right now? Sometimes it might be taking deep diaphragmatic breaths to slow down. It might be eating that snack that you packed for work and is easily becoming out of sight, out of mind, you know? But until we slow down and we're able to check in with our bodies, we'll keep missing those signals, you know? And in the long run, it saves us more time and money to slow down in the present and care for ourselves and give ourselves what we need, whether that be going to therapy, checking in with a friend, going to the doctor, doing those self-care things that just keep us healthy and improve our quality of life. So on to the fun stuff, right? At least for me, crafting is so therapeutic. Give me paper, a glue gun, paint, and I lock in with the Cozy movie. Cállate, that's my idea of a good time. That is my clubbing right there. And everyone needs recreational self-care, and that's just a time to do fun activities, whatever that may be for you. Maybe for you it is going to go dance at the club. I don't know. We're all so unique and we have different things that we enjoy. And it also can be a lot of fun to just explore some of those activities if you feel like you never got a chance to. Being the eldest parentified daughter, recreational self-care heals my corazoncito every time. It just feels like I'm getting to reconnect with my inner child who loved to just lock in, color, had no cares in the world, would go to the park and just have fun. Giving myself moments like that means a lot to me, and it's so healing for me. So here I decided to make a paper chain and decorate my Christmas tree with the same decorations I had from last year because hello, the economy first of all is really shitty right now, so trying to be mindful of that. And I just love the decorations that I ended up getting from a local artesanía store. Then I also used ribbon, so I'm just having a grand old time busting out my decorations from last year. And all of that to say is that it's okay to slow down and have fun, you guys. We only get one life. It's really important to let ourselves have some recreational self-care. Also, an interesting thing is that trying new recipes is something that I had to learn to enjoy. I feel like for some people that's like their automatic fun thing, and it really was not for me because cooking was one of my chores growing up, and it's how that parentification showed up, where it didn't really become a life skill that I enjoyed being taught. It more so became a life skill that I had to be forced to learn to use. So gradually I had to reteach my body that cooking could be fun. It didn't have to be a chore, and it could become more of a fun ritual for myself. Healing that little part of me had to happen a little bit at a time over the years, with each thing I researched, with each moment that I practiced doing something and it went wrong, but then I tried again. And it's okay to try to enjoy activities or to try things and not be great at it ever, or eventually learning to be really good at it. But it's more about just being in the moment and trying to enjoy the act of doing something. That's when it starts to become a bit more of a ritual than just a chore or something that has to be done. So that is a huge part of my own little self-care process. What are some of the things that are currently fueling and nourishing you?
Darte mis noches llenas de amor, corazón, hablarle en poesía, cantarle a tu alma y llenarla de ilusión, amor. Quiero dar amor cuando sientas dolor. Quiero acompañarte hasta que te salga el sol. Besar todas tus lágrimas y darte todo mi amor. jamás seré tu dueña. Yo quiero que me elijas cada día por amor. Corazón, todo lo que viví fue para prepararme y reconocer tu amor. Amor, te quiero dar amor cuando sientas dolor. Quiero acompañarte hasta que te salga el sol. Besar todas tus lágrimas y darte todo mi amor.
So I made a tecito, and I also brought my notebook with some notes that I wrote down because I wanted to talk to you all about my therapy experience and how that has been going so far. It's something that I just started, and I thought we could also talk about how important it is for us to break that stigma that is within our Latina community, and specifically like in the Mexican community too, of people really fearing going to therapy. O simplemente hay muchas personas que piensan que ir a terapia quiere decir que ellos están locos o que se les zafó un tornillo. Incluso como que le da vergüenza a la gente poder ir when it's something that we should be proud of the fact that we're going to get care for our mental health and not seeing it as something that's a last resort and something to only do if a family member is in crisis. And it's okay if like financially we may not be in the place to be able to do things right away, but to just at least start normalizing getting care and that getting care is okay. And I decided to share that journey with you all here on this channel because I thought it would be a really interesting perspective for a therapist to share their therapy experience with you all too, because as I'm going through it, I can be honest with you about what I'm liking, any tips, things like that. Because when someone is really new to therapy, sometimes they might ask themselves like, oh, is this something that's normal in therapy, or is this something that is okay? Like, should I say something? And so I want to kind of bring you all along for that and share some of those thoughts and feelings that I'm having as a human, and also looking at it from the lens of a therapist as well. I have seen other vlogs of people bringing others along for their therapy journey, and so I've set some boundaries for myself. I'm going to share like little tidbits of my experience, things that I think would be helpful, but something that I'm never going to do is record my therapy sessions or also share like really intimate details of my life that I don't feel comfortable sharing, like trauma related things that might be too painful to share. So that's something that I'm going to respect about my journey in therapy, but I don't necessarily need to share those things to be able to give a lot of insight for you all about the experience itself. And so I'm really excited to bring you all along for that, and I wrote a lot of notes to share with you all. So let me just drink some tecito so we can go ahead and get into this conversation. I love getting into the plática portion of the videos because it's so fun. It just feels really chill, like we're just hanging out, and I get to have a very low maintenance talk with you all, and it just doesn't feel as stuffy, if that makes sense. But just to give you all a little bit of background on why I decided to start therapy. So for me, I started at the beginning of December. I was going to have a lot of holiday family things coming up and just events, and I knew that it was the perfect time to get support. And the idea of therapy isn't new to me, of course, because I am a therapist, but within my culture, if I take the therapist hat off, therapy is something that is very, very taboo within my Mexican cultura, and specifically because Historically, within the Mexican culture and within our cultura, it was very common for a lot of folks to just go to loved ones or conocidos, curanderos, other healers that combine like mental and spiritual type care. And therapy is not new in Mexico necessarily, but there is a lot of distrust and a lot of stigma because a lot of folks don't want to be labeled as being crazy or being seen as something being wrong with them. So a lot of that narrative has kept so many people from getting life-saving and crucial care, or even just from getting the kind of care that will help them build and develop healthy relationships, heal through trauma, like so many things that can be avoided and can be helped. So breaking that stigma really takes a lot of effort, and it's something that happens one person at a time. So this is my little granito que estoy poniendo to help break that stigma other than the work that I do as a therapist. So not new to me as a therapist. Every therapist is unique and is different, but for the most part, I knew what it would be like. I had an idea. Now this was my first therapy experience other than the counseling services that I received in high school and also through my grad school program, like being put in therapy situations with other counseling students. And so this was my first time being like, okay, I'm going to do this. And it was something that I had been wanting to do for over 2 years now, but I ended up choosing to prioritize my PCOS care first. So I was diagnosed with PCOS a few years back, and it's something that I had probably since I was like 15 or even younger. I'm not really quite sure, but it was something that I definitely needed care for a long time ago, and I didn't get it until my mid-20s. And so it was really important for me to just focus on that journey because it was impacting both my physical and mental health and just every facet of my life. If my PCOS symptoms were flared up and weren't cared for, it was impacting my mental health. So it would come with depression and anxiety symptoms, and it was really difficult and one of the hardest things that I've had to go through and that I've had to gradually find tools for and find care for. And with that being said, I'm coming to a close on my PCOS care with my nurse practitioner and the telehealth clinic that I go to. I have worked really hard, and my nurse practitioner is amazing. I love Christina so much. She has truly just helped change my life. And so I'm guessing that I probably have about 2 to 3 months left to reach the goals that I have, because in her words, my labs are just really great. Like, they're in healthy levels. So the rest is just personal goals with my PCOS. And so since I'm transitioning out of that, I wanted to just prioritize my mental health, wanting to get like direct mental health care, because even though I do receive medication support through my nurse practitioner, and trust me, that has just saved my life. It has played such a huge role in both my PCOS care and my mental health care with the anxiety and depression symptoms. And now I'm really looking forward to transitioning into getting like dedicated mental health care, because it's something that I really care about and I value. And I wanted to find the right practitioner for me, because as a therapist, I know that therapy is only as successful as the therapist you choose to come alongside you, because the relationship is everything, you know, and you being able to develop good rapport, good relationships. And so initially I knew what I was looking for. I wanted a therapist who was social justice oriented, because I was like, oh hell no, I'm not about to end up in a therapy room, even if it's virtual, in a therapy room with a therapist who is MAGA or something like that. That would be my worst fear imaginable. That would be so scary to me. It'd feel very unsafe and very uncomfortable. And so I wanted to make sure, baseline, I know what your values are. I know what you care about. So I know how you're going to treat me in session and how you're going to care for me. And so that was one. I wanted her to be a Latina, specifically Mexican, so that she could understand like the nuances of my cultura and my culture. I also wanted someone who took my insurance and who specialized in EMDR, because here's my therapy plan. I like planning things out so I know like how long I'll be doing something and have like a goal to aim toward. And so with therapy, I wanted to at least do 3 to 4 months focus specifically on EMDR therapy, working on my trauma, having the symptoms that can come from the triggers that I experience lower for me with the work that I do there. And so that was just the main baseline goal for me. Like, I wanted that to decrease so that I could feel better and so that I could feel more present during situations with like family or loved ones and not have to experience the aftermath that comes from being triggered to the extent that I had been experiencing it. And so 3 to 4 months of that, and then the plan for me is transitioning into having another therapist who specializes in something similar as I do, so more relationship based, person centered talk therapy, because I really want to be able to establish a long lasting relationship with the therapist, so someone that I can come back to over the years. If I take breaks for a few months or even for a year, I'm able to still come back to them. And of course, there's things that are out of our hands, but that is the type of therapist that I am. And I know that there's other therapists like that out there as well. And so both kinds of therapists play very different roles and even a little bit similar. But with the first therapist that I'm going, it's very much like down to business. You get there, you're doing the thing that you're there to do. And with a person-centered relational based therapist, it's a lot more about slower, gentle pacing, getting to know each other, talk therapy. I love talk therapy. And so I'm very excited to find my own therapist, just someone who I can bring up like the current things that I'm going through and have someone like help me process and work through some of those things, because I love doing that myself. So I could definitely see myself like going for like 2 to 3 months and then like taking a good break and then coming back if something else surfaces for a few months and then taking another break. So with that therapist, I'm really going to take my time to find the right person. And so with this one, I still wanted to find the right person, but even going my first session, like at a base level, we do click. EMDR therapy and just like this therapist style, so far it's only been 2 sessions, so that's not enough for me to judge how I'm feeling completely, but it is enough to give me like a little window. And so during the intake, I noticed that I was so uncomfortable just giving all of my information. And you would think that as a therapist, because I'm used to that it would be like, ooh, easy breezy. This is so easy for me to do. But no, as the human, I felt really uncomfortable. And personally, when I do therapy, clients end up filling out their intake before they see me. And I read through that, so when they come in, we have something to go off of, and it kind of takes the pressure off of them almost feeling like I'm interrogating them and putting them on the spot to remember things. And so that's essentially what happened in my first therapy session. And there's a purpose to everything that every therapist chooses to do. But for me personally, that was definitely not necessarily a preference. It was really uncomfortable, and I was trying to remember certain things. When I was on the spot, the anxiety, would kick in, and I was trying to remember and wishing that I had said other things. Even though that approach to the intake wasn't necessarily like my favorite, I felt as comfortable as I could feel with the therapist that I had. It's really hard for me. It takes me time to build trust with a new person. I know some people like immediately they might connect with someone and feel comfortable, but for me, it really takes a lot of time. And so first session, I realized like I was uncomfortable, but I also felt validated sometimes, and I also learned a lot. And there were just a lot of things that I did like and that were definitely worth it for me to keep going and see how I felt. Going into second session, which was about a week apart, because I decided to make my first couple of sessions a little bit closer, like every week, every other week. That way there wasn't that much time in between sessions and I could really get to know my therapist. I'm also someone who's really highly motivated, and so I wanted to just get things done. That is how I currently still feel. Like, give me the homework, I will do it. Like, let's get this done as quickly as possible. And that's specifically how I feel about like the EMDR therapy. Relational type therapy, which will be the other kind that I want to do, I will slow down, have fun, and really try to enjoy that. But with this one, there's a specific purpose and I want to get it done. And that's how I'm feeling. And so after my first session, the homework that I was given was to journal and to write down my observations of what I was thinking and feeling in between when I saw her again. So coming into second session, I had my journal and I ended up using my phone. So I used my notes app and I wrote down like little tiny bullet points for certain days. And as we were going through them and I was reading them to her, when we were in session, she asked me to recognize certain patterns within what I was writing And so one of the things that we noted together and that she helped me see was that I wasn't really writing my thoughts. I was writing the trigger, I was writing the event, I was writing how I felt. So I was writing a lot of good things, but I wasn't writing what I was actually thinking during those moments. Like I wasn't allowing myself to go there, to actually voice what I was thinking and write that down and be aware of it. So to that part, I was not connecting. I was not connecting to that part of myself. And having that realization in therapy was just a mind-blowing experience. And I love being there for when my clients have those moments. So I loved being able to experience what that really felt like for me, to have that aha moment and those connections. I'm like, okay, we're building these new neural pathways. I was really excited. There were also moments where I've cried in therapy. So thankfully when that's happened, she's let me know to drink some water, to also take some moments to take some slow, deep breaths. So that felt really good because that's something that I do with my own therapy clients too, of creating a little bit of distance and grounding before we move on. So during that second session, it was really down to business, and she wanted me to focus on recognizing my thoughts better. So through most of the session, she brought out a little template for me and we did it together. We were listing different things. I actually wrote it down here to share with you all, but basically the little template that she gave to me, it asked me to list the event, the feelings, thoughts, behavior, or reaction, coping skills that I use, supportive evidence of the thought or belief, non-supportive evidence, reframed thought, and how I feel now after going through and writing all of my reflections. So what I did on my notes app is I ended up just writing those titles out. And so when I find myself during the week facing an experience that comes with the trigger, after I'm going through it, I try to write down what I was thinking, specifically trying to focus on that because she mentioned like that's the one thing that she really wants me to be aware of. And so what I was thinking, and I write down everything else on there for me. That felt a lot easier for me versus printing out the template that she gave me and like trying to sit and write it out. So I want to encourage you, if you're starting therapy or you're thinking of it, to think of how you can also make things your own, and even ask if it's okay to do modifications if something doesn't feel accessible to you. But I like asking my own therapy clients if what I'm suggesting feels attainable for them, or what might be an obstacle that would get in the way of them being able to follow through with homework. And that's usually when we make modifications. So something to think about for you if you're thinking of starting therapy, knowing that it's okay to not be like all or nothing mentality. Like if I wasn't able to do it exactly this way, throw it away. I don't want to do it. I wasn't able to do it. So instead of having that mentality, like going into it thinking, you know what, it's okay for me to ask for a modification. Also, if you're thinking of starting therapy or you're a first timer, definitely take some water with you, some tissues, because like I tell my own clients, you might not need it, but it is best to have it because you are going to be talking about your life experiences and so much. And those are just the little things that help. I also suggest bringing a notebook or your notes up because there might be certain things that you're learning or becoming aware of, or something that your therapist is saying that really sticks with you. So you can just reflect back on your therapy journey. And I personally love keeping a journal for my PCOS journey as well. So when I see my nurse practitioner, Christina, I write down questions that I have on there. I write down my observations, so like progress that I'm seeing. And so I try to keep that journal so I can look back and see my progress and also see things that I'm struggling with and be aware of it. So I definitely had no problem with my therapist suggesting I do that for therapy. I was like, got you. I can do that. Now, when she gave me the extensive template, I was like, oh shit, okay. Like, yeah. Is that new to me? No. But when you're just a person in therapy, you're like, okay, things just got serious. It's time to get to work and do the thing. And it's a little different because the journal entry, it will help me slow down. And I have noticed that it's helped me slow down because it's a lot. It's a lot of little bullet points. So it's not like I'm just jotting down little things. Like, it really does help me be aware. And specifically, I am a lot more aware of the thoughts that are happening in the moment, because before I used to have like a check-in time, like especially once a week, like during Sundays when I'm not working. So I really do feel that the journaling that she's assigning me is helping me be aware of my thoughts during the week. Even if I'm working, like taking a little moment to be present if I was triggered by something, and paying attention to the thoughts that are coming up and allowing myself to be with those thoughts and to even reframe some of that, because I noticed that I was reframing, but I wasn't aware of the thoughts that were happening before. It was like I was blocking that, and I was just immediately going into reframing a thought that I didn't even know I need to reframe. It's a little confusing. You would think that it would be the opposite, but I've done a lot of work in recognizing a trigger and recognizing like the behavior that's happening, being able to name it, being able to find good coping skills, and even reframing. I've done so much work in learning how to reframe and be kinder to myself, but I was not allowing myself to be aware of the thoughts to begin with, and letting myself not rush through sitting with those thoughts, you know? And so that has been really eye-opening. It has been really healthy and also a little hard. That time during our first session when she brought it up, oh my gosh, like there was like a flood of emotions coming up for me when I was having these realizations, and a lot of confusion also as to why I wasn't allowing myself to sit with those thoughts. So far I've written 2 journal entries throughout this past week alone. And I'm definitely looking forward to showing her those when I see her my 3rd session, which is going to be in 2 days. I see her this coming Thursday, right before the holidays, which is great. And then I'm going to be taking a break from therapy for Nochebuena, Navidad, and Año Nuevo. And then I'll be back in therapy after that. And I think it'll be a good time for me to continue to put into practice what she's doing. And so this coming session, my 3rd session with her, I'm thinking of letting her know about my timeline to see what she thinks. Like if she thinks it's pretty reasonable, like 3 to 4 months, like dedicated to EMDR therapy. And if it goes a little bit more than that, I have no problem, but I do want her to know that I'm very highly motivated and that I really want to get this moving. I feel like it's really important for me to voice that also to my therapist, so she knows where I'm at, what I'm thinking. I can definitely tell that we're both still trying to build our rapport because it's just been 2 sessions, so it takes a little bit of time. So I'm going to see what she thinks, and I also let her know that I was going to be very upfront and honest about how I'm feeling in therapy, if I need things to be a little different, like gentler. So we're going to see how that goes, but I wanted to share my experience with you all so far, and I'm going to keep sharing some of that with you all. But if you have been thinking about starting therapy, I hope that you feel encouraged to get curious about it, or to even just start taking baby steps in that direction. And baby steps can be reading mental health care books and taking notes of things that you'd like to cover with the therapist in the future, or reading articles from psychologytoday.com that are written by therapists, and again, little notes of things that you would like to discuss with the therapist in the future. Another baby step could be gradually starting to research a therapist if they're on social media, following them to get to know them a little bit more. So definitely don't feel discouraged if you can't do therapy right this minute. It's okay to take little baby steps in that direction and just research and take your time with that if you can. But yeah, everyone, that is everything that I wanted to talk to you all in the Platica today, just to fill you in on my own therapy journey, how that is going so far, because I really do want to encourage others in our community to know that it is okay to go to therapy. I think that the more that we encourage each other and then we talk about these things and normalize it within our own families, within our comunidades, it's not something that needs to be taboo. If you have any questions or any suggestions of other videos and other things that you want to see on this channel, definitely let me know in the comment section. If you have other requests for other self-care vlogs and things that you'd like for me to bring you along for with, or things that you want me to talk about, definitely let me know also. We continue the holiday festivities, so please remember to take some time to sit down with what you need during the holiday season and take care of yourselves. It is not a selfish thing for us to slow down and take some time to create boundaries, to care for ourselves. That is such a healing thing and something that helps our families and our communities. So cuídense mucho, and I will go go ahead and see you in my next video. Bye, comunidad.